Hey there, everybody. Thanks for joining me for another one-man review. Today I will be taking a look at an apocryphal comic book by Andy Hartzell. This is called Monday. This is recently out from Uncivilized Books. Thanks so much to Tom Kaczynski at Uncivilized for sending over a copy of this. Tom sent a little gift package of a few of the books, and you'll be seeing the reviews for all of those up. Really enjoyed this book. Really funny, and the premise of it is hilarious. Really nice on the end papers here. A map of the Garden of Eden, and as you can tell by the title, this is a comic apocrypha. So there's a claim in here that it's a funny premise. There's a claim that there's this sect of people who believe in an eighth day of creation, and they have a story that's been passed down throughout the ages. But the story was originally supposedly put in images on catacomb walls, and then when those catacombs were under threat, these things got copied down onto paper with one wall per page, and the artists add explanatory text and in some cases dialogue bubbles to help convey the narrative. So basically, there's this, like, the world's first graphic novel was just a recording of this mural on the walls of this catacomb, and then it's got passed down, and you can see they're carrying around these comic pages and stuff. So not only is this lost eighth book, or the book about the eighth day of creation, this important thing because it's the book about the lost eighth day of creation, but it's also important because it's like the world's first really thorough graphic novel. And Andy Hartzell goes through and like shows the little history of that and then relates it to comics. There's a really interesting idea and how it influenced comics. There's a really interesting idea here that there was a bunch of like marginal notations being made with esoteric meanings. They're in these symbol languages and stuff. So that's a really fun idea. That's actually also one of the biggest criticisms I have of the book, is that everything after this introduction is supposedly just a presentation of the actual book itself. I wish that Andy Hartzell would have gone in and used this idea and put in his marginal notations throughout this and presented it rather than like a recreation of the book, like treated it like an actual scan of the book. That would have been pretty just formally compelling. There's so much you could have done with that as an idea. So ideas there, it's a really fun idea, but it didn't actually show up in the, okay, now we're presenting the eighth day story. So now we're in the eighth day story, and you can see the sun is rising on the eighth day. We're in the Garden of Eden, and basically Adam and Eve are having a conversation where Eve's freaking out, and Adam's like, no, like, look, the sun comes back every day. I told you, like, you don't have to worry. Nothing ever changes. There's some really funny stuff in here where like the snake is talking about, and the same thing with Adam being like, don't freak out about the sun. The snake is saying, sadly, to those of us who have been around a while, it makes all too much sense. God's been on a downhill spiral for a few days now. Much of his recent work has been, well, less than inspired. So the idea of the snake like being around for 1 or 2 days longer than the people being like, yeah, I'm an old hand at this now. Like, yeah, I know God better than you guys. The idea of how we perceive scale, like that 2 days would seem like an eternity when there's only been 6 days, 7 days so far. So that's a really funny idea. And then the idea that humans are visually less inspired than other animals, I think, is pretty undeniable. He's talking about how cool the scorpion is and stuff like that. So that's really funny. There's a birthplace here, which is basically God's factory, and God is in there working on the eighth day. He's trying to make some new creation that's going to be even cooler than the humans. So of course Adam and Eve are, Eve's a little stressed out. Adam just wants to help out. Some really fun visual play here where like Adam's falling out, and you get to see the God character here, the way he's drawing like the Illuminati pyramid with the single eye at the top is the God character. But just some fun formal play with how the visuals work on the page as well. So that combines in with all of the humor in the book to make this a very fun, enjoyable read. And then we get the story of the fall here, where you see the snake is this kind of winged, legged creature, and he's having an argument with God where like Satan's actually going around trying to organize everything in this book. You know, usually we be chaos as Satan and order as God, but here he's like trying to make sure everything works. He's the one on the ground, and then God is the one that prefers chaos and gets mad and zaps him and causes the fall. So just a lot of little tweaks on the narrative, I think justified tweaks on the narrative that are critical of the story in the Bible in the exact right way. Another just really good bit of writing here, some wisdom. You can be the most prodigal talent in the universe, and believe me, I'm second to none in admiration for God's raw talent. But if you don't proceed in a reasonable, orderly manner, your own talent can become your undoing. And that's always something as a creator and an artist that I have to, like I have a bajillion ideas, kind of like the God character in here is just overflowing with ideas. And it's always like I have to pull myself back and do it in a reasonable, orderly manner to make sure anything gets done, or I would never get there. And it hurts. It's painful. You got 50 other things that you want to do on any given day. But that's really good advice for creators. And then at the end here, when God's basically piecing out, sorry for spoilers, I guess, but I really like this bit of writing. God's like, all right, later, guys, like have fun figuring it out. He says, one word of advice, keep notes. If things start getting out of hand, you'll want to look back. And I think that's a pretty deep bit of writing as well, especially now where the world feels like things are getting out of hand. The inclination, and I think it's part of what me and Tori are feeling as well, is the inclination to look back into history for some answers about like human behavior and things like that, which is a lot of where we're looking back at mythology and looking back and criticizing the stories that came before, like that we should be keeping notes. Don't forget history, learn from the past. So yeah, a book that's full of wisdom, but is also fun. It's, I would say, like an expansional critical story that expands on the ideas that came before in a critical way. It doesn't just invert everything. And it's funny, it's beautifully drawn. So really, really enjoyed this book. I'll also say that just the cover design was so cool that Tori grabbed this book like every now and then for whatever reason. She's just drawn to books that I have laying around, and this was one where she was like, picked it up and like, this looks cool, and saw the premise and was like, yeah, I love it. So like it's a really, really successful book. Even the design of it has that kind of compelling, just sucked someone in. So thank you so much, Tom, for sending this over. We both really enjoyed it and are very, very appreciative of that.